I shared my flyer for a free Intro to Grid Working workshop to a Facebook group in my city here, intending to teach others how we can send Mother Gaia love and light into the grid through meditation. And a woman had commented, "This sounds like a cult." Her comment stung because my values are the polar opposite of that of a cult leader. I'm all about inclusivity, consciousness, and encouraging your sovereignty and discernment in this information age of Aquarius, but I understand her concern. For someone unfamiliar with meditation and grid working, it might sound really out there. That interaction sparked today's video. As a social scientist and spiritual seeker, I want to give you the tools to distinguish between authentic spiritual guidance and manipulation. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Athena's Garden TV, where we explore various topics in the realms of healing, consciousness, and seeking truth. Today's topic is one I approach with great care and deep responsibility because it affects seekers at every stage of their spiritual path. Let's talk about the difference between spiritual teachers and cult leaders, and how sometimes the line can get blurry. I will cover the difference between the occult and a cult, and I'll go over how to spot a cult leader versus a spiritual teacher and how to best protect yourself. Please feel free to utilize the timestamps below and also the links in my description where I cite the solid interviews by social scientists that I credit and talk about in this video. When you're on a journey of healing or awakening, you can become vulnerable. You're experiencing new mystical experiences and you've never had this before, so you want to know, is this normal? That's when a mentor or spiritual teacher can become a lighthouse in the fog. Unfortunately, cult leaders are acutely aware of your vulnerability. They exploit your desire for growth, borrowing spiritual language or even psychology and truth, and then warping it with lies to indoctrinate, manipulate, control, and exploit you. When someone charismatic says something that deeply resonates with your soul, maybe something beautiful, ancient, and sacred, your guard naturally lowers. That's exactly when the cult leader slips in their lie, their control, and their own agenda. Absolutely anyone can be recruited because cult recruiters are inherently deceptive and hide their true intention. Here's an example how they twist spiritual truths. The world is in a spiritual awakening, so they twist it to, so if you leave this group, you'll fall back into the matrix. A truth, you create your own reality, and they'll be twisting it to, so if you're suffering, it must be your fault. You must be unhealed or you're low vibration, and you need to invest more and practice deeper. The hard truth, some people generally want to help others, while others want power, control, admiration, and these exploitive people learn to mimic the language of light to get what they want. That's why this epoch, the one we're in right now, is all about honing in on your discernment to distinguish real wisdom from BS. Let's clear something up first, because these words get confused a lot. A cult and the occult are not the same thing. A cult is a social structure, not a spiritual pathway. It's defined by manipulative power dynamics, not belief systems. From the sociological perspective, a cult is a high control group centered around a charismatic leader. It's marked by psychological manipulation, emotional dependency, and isolation from outside influences. A cult is designed to benefit the leader while exploiting the followers. A cult can be religious, political, spiritual-based, or even secular, like a business. Its focus is about behavior and control and exploitation of members, not necessarily tied to a belief in the mystical sense. The occult comes from the Latin word occultus, meaning hidden or secret. It refers to the esoteric knowledge and spiritual mysteries and the practices meant to uncover the unseen layers of reality. The occult can include alchemy, astrology, divination, ceremonial magic, and includes mystical traditions from like Hermeticism, the Kabbalah, Taoism, esoteric Buddhism, Gnosticism, and theosophical lineages. Modern practices like tarot, sigils, energy work, shadow integration, light language all fall under the umbrella of the occult. The occult is about working with symbolism, archetypes, energy, and hidden truths. It's not inherently dark, evil, or manipulative, though like any spiritual path, it can be distorted and used for evil. There are a few reasons why the occult remained hidden for a long time or occulted. One of them is from persecution, so think of the witch hunts we had over time, but it is also because the practitioners want to prevent people from using this esoteric knowledge for evil. Centuries of religious fear campaigns, especially from dominant religious institutions, painted anything occult as dangerous. In that fear, people began to associate esoteric wisdom with brainwashing, magic with manipulation, the mystical with the malevolent, unfortunately. But again, a cult is about social control. The occult is about spiritual inquiry. You can explore the occult and still have strong boundaries, critical thinking, and self-sovereignty, and not want to harm others. You can also be in a seemingly mainstream group like religion or government or business that's secretly operating with cult-like control. It is important to know the distinction, as cults often borrow occulted information, spiritual lingo, and incorporate them to attract new members who might be on a spiritual or self-help journey. My next section is what social science says about cult leaders, and I will then compare and contrast the traits of a cult leader with a spiritual teacher for each category. So let's look at some of the key traits of cult leaders as outlined in social psychology and cult recovery research, including the work of Dr. Margaret Singer and Dr. Stephen Hassan. A cult leader has charismatic authority. They present themselves as extraordinarily gifted, enlightened, or divinely chosen. They often claim exclusive access to truth or a higher dimension. They claim they are the only ones who have access to this, whereas a spiritual teacher will not overly emphasize their qualifications and will talk about themselves with humility. An example of this is the late Robert Gilbert of Vesica Institute. He shared he will never say, "Oh, I'm an initiate of a lineage." Teachers will model integrity, not perfection. They will admit when they are wrong or that they don't know everything. They don't use words like ascension or channeling in order to bypass accountability. A cult leader asks for absolute loyalty. Dissent is seen as betrayal, and asking questions or questioning the leader's decisions or methods is punished emotionally, socially, or even spiritually. And that's part of the indoctrination process. In contrast, a spiritual teacher will welcome questions and discussions. They don't claim to have the answers to everything, and they're open to being challenged or evolving together as a group. A cult leader will use the us versus them mentality, often dehumanizing outsiders or ex-members. Cult leaders isolate members by creating a worldview that says only we are awakened. Everyone else is asleep, evil, or dangerous. People who leave are seen as lost, or they're attacked by dark forces, or they're no longer vibrating high enough. And this discourages questioning and reinforces loyalty. A spiritual teacher will encourage integration, not isolation. They encourage connections with your family, friends, therapists, and other support systems, not just their spiritual community. You will hear things like, Use this spiritual tool in conjunction with your other healing modalities. Take what resonates with you. In contrast to, my way is the correct way. The cult exploits their followers. This includes financial exploitation, sexual manipulation, or demanding excessive time and free labor, all in the name of devotion or service. Usually, this benefits the cult leader and those higher-ranking members, or the inner sanctum. A spiritual teacher will have healthy boundaries, not control. They don't demand your money, time, or blind devotion. They respect your no. Just like your favorite teacher in school or professor in college, while you can become friendly in that mentor and mentee dynamic, there is still a professional boundary that is maintained. A cult generally lacks transparency. They often have hidden rules, secret teachings, and shifting goalposts. You're told you must keep going deeper or paying more, investing more time in order to be truly ready. Spiritual teachers are transparent. Their teachings, fees, and values are clear, and there is no bait and switching. We must be aware of love bombing, or the preying on vulnerability, and also the use of fear tactics. The cult lure members in with flattery. New members are showered with praise and validation until they question something. Then they use fear, guilt, or spiritual shame in order to control them. A teacher will encourage you, and they might give you constructive criticism to improve or feedback, but will do so in a sensitive manner. They want you to grow, not feel fear, guilt, or shame. Finally, a spiritual teacher will encourage your sovereignty and help you trust your inner guidance, not just theirs. The opposite of this is where the cult and cult leaders create an environment for thought reform, which is a form of programming and indoctrination. And this process, according to Dr. Margaret Singer, here are the 6 conditions. Number 1, deception. The cult leader always hide their true agenda. Number 2, destabilization, controlling the person's physical environment, taking away their thinking time. So think of isolation, sleep deprivation, starvation, or busy schedule, so busy that you can't think, which is the opposite of sovereignty. Number 3, dependency and dread. This is where they create a sense of powerlessness, anxiety, and fear. And then there's disconnection, which is suppressing your old behavior and personality and attitudes, which leads to number 5, developing the cult pseudo-personality. And this is when the cult members are eliciting your new behaviors and attitudes that's in alignment with the cult. You see this talked about in the video I linked by cult deprogrammer Rick Alan Ross, where the cult member's true self is taken over by this pseudo-personality, which is encouraged by the cult. And then there is denial and dedication, which is when the cult maintains a closed system of logic and restricting criticism. I thought it'd be helpful to share that if you had joined a program, a retreat, or a class where you feel that any of these 6 conditions described by Dr. Singer I list if it applies, it might be time to take a step back and decide if this group is still right for you. Here's the nuance. Some cult leaders start off as genuine spiritual seekers. They might truly want to help, but somewhere along the way, ego, trauma, or power can twist them over time. They become opportunists who study spiritual language like a script, using these sacred terms or esoteric knowledge to manipulate, not heal. And that's why discernment is key, because not all red flags are obviously control or abuse. Sometimes it's subtle shifts where autonomy replaces obedience, or empowerment replaces dependence. Take your time seeking grounded spiritual mentorship. I myself observed my teachers for months before reaching out. Here is a guide to protect yourself as a spiritual seeker. If you're in doubt, ask yourself, does this path make me more free or more dependent? Am I encouraged to think critically or to surrender completely? Do I feel empowered, or Am I subtly shamed or belittled? Is love and compliments being used as a tool for control? And what happens when someone decides to leave the group or the space? Here's the shortcut. Yes, ta-da! Dr. Hawkins' map of consciousness, we meet again. After interacting with the person or the members, do you feel shame, guilt, grief, fear, apathy, anger, or do you feel joy, peace, love, willingness, or even the courage to be your authentic self? Remember, you don't have to demonize a teacher in order to walk away from a group. Even if they had helped you at some point, it's okay to grow beyond them. In a world that is hungry for spiritual guidance, we must also be vigilant about spiritual integrity. The greatest teacher will always lead you back to yourself, not to their brand or to their authority or their approval. Your soul is sovereign, so may you walk with wisdom, discernment, and the courage to say no to anything that dims your light. Thank you so much for watching and for being here. If this message or video resonated with you or helped you in some way, please share it with someone. Until next time, stay grounded, stay curious, and exercise discernment.